ladies and gentlemen. So today let us look at a topic in contracts management. There are many reasons due to which disputes develop in contracts, and equally there are many alternative dispute resolution mechanisms as well. Now if you look at the literature available on the subject, when you do a literature survey, you will see that Kenneth Thomas and Rolf Killman had done a study, and they found that wherever there is an agreement on a consideration, which practically is a contract, there can be conflicts. And according to them, there were 5 ways of resolving such conflicts. They thought that either you can avoid a conflict, or you can defeat, or you can compromise, or you can accommodate, or you can collaborate. Avoidance would involve, obviously, discreet movements, diplomacy, careful steering, and defeating the other party would involve abrupt interpretation and strong points, which always may not be possible. And then he carries it further, that always avoiding is not possible, always winning by defeating the other party is not possible, and compromise at times is possible, not always possible. A bit of an accommodation in principles of natural justice and by common norms of world order, of professional ethics, of the intent of the contract is possible. And collaboration is certainly possible. Occasionally, in MES or organizations like MES, the governmental authority starts assuming a hallowed position where he starts thinking that he is the only one who is bothered about the government interests. No. He has subordinates who are equally bothered. Subordinates are people who lawfully work with him and below him. And he has superiors who will be equally bothered. And he has controlling entities and various other entities which have a stake in organizational imperatives. They all will be bothered to assign to oneself indisputable role of it's me who has to set everything right. Many times runs them into direct conflicts with contractors, and sometimes making it worse, they start assuming that the contractor is the one who has ab initio come with an idea of doing wrong, of pleasing the government, of deriving all possible benefit, of not delivering the product. We all come from the same socio-ethnic groups. Our social anthropology is much or more similar. How can it be that we take it that all who have come to do a contract with the government of India or on behalf of President when an officer signs a contract, it need not be assumptorily taken that the other party is going to hoodwink. There are n number of cases where wrongs have taken place, and equally n number of cases where contracts have been rightfully discharged with great interests and ethics and probity. World over, right from times immemorial, contracts have been there. Kings have ruled by allotting agricultural lands to specific families to administer. Kings have stationed body of troops under different warlords to come and contribute only in times of war. Kings have kept their wealth with people for safekeeping, for a consideration. Any number of forms of contracts have been there. And presently we are now talking about contracts in MES. So let us look at it. The causes generally that lead to contracts are, you can have faulty contracts, you can have faulty administration, you can have default by the contractor, you can have unreasonable attitude adopted by the contractor. Faulty contracts many times take place, ladies and gentlemen. While drafting the contract, occasionally we are short of staff, sometimes we draft it in a hurry, sometimes it is being drafted by people who are not so well crewed up, and sometimes while converting script into contract, a few points get omitted. Discrepancy or ambiguity in the document or different documents forming part of the contract, and contradictory or missing details in the drawings attached with the contract, possible. Provisions in the contract occasionally don't reflect the site condition. Let us say the site is waterlogged. Some provisions should start considering the dewatering requirements, etc. Sometimes it may not be. Incorrect description of the items or specifications do lead to disputes. Typographic mistakes, like I had said. Impractical provisioning or periods of completion also make a lot of difference. If we don't provision what is necessary, and if we give impossible times for completion, it will straight away start with a dispute. Sometimes the local materials of specifications mentioned in the contract agreement may not be available at site. Sometimes the material mentioned in the contract agreement may have been banned by court order. Let us say river sand. I had faced a situation in Gujarat when there was no river sand available anywhere next to that site. Government had banned, and when government had partially opened it up, there were too many claimants for the limited quantity. So, situations can emerge. Incorrect pricing of item or unit. Sometimes you may price an item in the contract in a manner in which it doesn't reflect reality. Market survey would have been hasty, or maybe market survey would have been borrowed from someone which is not correct. Sometimes ground data will be insufficient, or at worst it can be incorrect. If it is North Gujarat and South Rajasthan, it will reflect different land conditions and ground conditions of neither Gujarat nor Rajasthan, because the border will behave differently. Sometimes there could be repetitions in the contract of phrases and clauses by cut, copy, paste, where somebody found it convenient and thought that he will end up changing ABC, which he didn't. Gentlemen, contracts are made of 300 to 200 to 400 pages. Somebody has to go through it cogently, piece by piece, part by part, discuss and analyze, have presentations, correct them at a preliminary draft stage, and then publish it. Occasionally, so much of diligence is not carried out and the contracts become faulty. Further, administration can be faulty of the contract. The moment a contract has been accepted, the L1 has been identified and the contract has been accepted. The moment a contract is, the bidding dates are over, the contract is in, analysis has been done, comparative statements have been made, technical bids have been opened, price bids have been opened, the L1 tenderer has been identified, the contract is accepted, signed. Now, obstruction-free site, a clear site has to be handed over. We cannot be choosy in not fulfilling our commitments and expect the other party to fulfill his commitments. In my context, our is the executive, there is the contractor, hereinafter when I am discussing. There could be a delay in approval or rejection of sample or makes. He comes, gives us a few samples, says in the contract agreement, you have mentioned 3 brands. These are the 3 items from the 3 brands. Please tell me which one to go for. An immediate decision has to be given. Sometimes all the 3 might have declared their inability to produce the said item. An alternate action will need to be taken. Occasionally, there could be delays in decisions or clarifications. Let us say the contractor comes and asks that at one place you have mentioned this, whereas in the drawing you have mentioned something else. So in the general specifications, in the drawings, in the particular specifications, if there are differences in the bill of quantity, what takes the precedence, what takes the highest precedence, what takes the lowest precedence, which will supersede what ambiguity, some clarification has to be immediately provided. There are provisions available in our documents. The rules are available. The extant rules need to be interpreted correctly. Decisions need to be given without delay. Sometimes copious drawings are not made for execution of the work. It's very important to provide drawings. If a contract is accepted and in the documents forming part of the contract, if the drawings are not comprehensive and complete, it may so happen the contract becomes non-executable. Very, very important to have the complete set of drawings with the contract. Execution of changes without pricing and approval and placing of orders is one more headache. Let us say at a particular place, the user, the one for whom the contract is being executed, the project proponent, he doesn't want, say, Kota stone. He wants vitrified tile because it doesn't go with the theme of his other building. Now, an approval in principle will have to be granted. A deviation order will have to be placed. The pricing will have to be correctly arrived at, looking at the contract provisions or by adopting the existent rules for making a star rate, if any. And the loop must be closed. If it is not, it will lead to a huge dispute. The execution and completion of works without finalization of variation in quantities that arise leads to avoidable disputes. Further, if you take decisions without properly examining the contract conditions, sometimes we say that A is accepted in place of B, whereas there might be a clause in the contract that only A is permissible or only B is permissible. You need to give credence. So it's very important to read through the contract, underline salients or take out salients, make a PPT or make a folder and keep a ready reckoner. The failure in taking proper and timely actions for issuing notices, for observations, for any omission commission will affect the whole execution of the contract. Various stages of work have to be visited and passed. Otherwise, let us say there is stage 1 foundation and stage 2 coming up to a particular height and stage 3 and stage 4 slab. You cannot go and look at the slab stage and say that the foundation was not correctly done. A progressive inspection should be done. And once a work is defective, it shouldn't be passed, and if it is rejected, it shouldn't be rejected after a huge time delay. It's incongruent. Finally, whatever needs to be done has to be done with correct instructions on the work diary and site order book. People become afraid to endorse something in the site order book. Why? If you are right and if you are convinced and if you are going by the spirit of the contract, then in the interest of organization, in the interest of work, endorse what you want to tell them. There's nothing wrong. Because contracts cannot be made for 17,000 pages. There will be some which are standard engineering practices, common engineering practices, what is normally expected, what is normally understood, and what is in line with the contract, what is in line with the intent of the contract. Such things can be said, endorsed, instructed. Failure in taking initial and final levels, sometimes a small thing like a level, at a huge stage, later stage, somebody might say, no, so much of earth filling was not done because the initial levels were taken very sparsely. No, our omission in doing due diligence cannot be passed on to the contractor. If we have not taken a decision and if we have not recorded, let us say the contract was for soft rock or hard rock. Let us say he encounters A, B, C instead of A and B. Then C has to be accounted for. Rules have to be followed by clear analysis and not by selective omission. Timely payment is a must. We keep harping, no overpayment has been done. Very good. But neither underpayment should be done. If you don't pay, how is the contractor's financial cycle going to work? Project finance is a beautiful subject. Mishandling of project finance can lead to the failure of a contract. If suddenly there is a eureka that I in the contract scope of work decided upon 4 because they were accepted as necessity and administratively approved and concluded. Now suddenly we cannot think of 10 more. In a 100% contract, 10% of DOs can be placed. The contractor is bound to do that much. But the moment it goes beyond 10%, there has to be mutual agreement. Basics have to be followed. Gentlemen, therefore, there is a need for us to be diligent in understanding a contract and in executing the contract. And further, we have to ensure that there is no delay at any level, and we have to ensure that the contract, the contractor, the site officials, the executive, they all meet adequately. There can be defaults by the contractor. Poor allocation and management of resources by the contractor can lead to delays and losses. They are not professionals being advised always by great firms. Many of them or normal people from normal strata of society who have just come with some past experience, or the father owning a firm, brother owning a firm, somebody joining in and with some past experience of works in MES, taking up a work or joining hands in a work of the family and trying to contribute. Now the moment there are more than one person involved, or with the same contractor with different supervisors under him, there will be variation in allocation and management of resources. Sometimes the executive will have to take a holistic view and warn, call out, name, tell him. It cannot be left on its own. Sometimes the contractor may not appoint a well-qualified site engineer. He might be thinking that he is saving money by appointing average personnel. He should be told that he will be evenly the sufferer. The extent rule of the contract will be talking about a person with an engineering degree. Whereas if he actually employs a person who really knows his job, he will correctly apply them. That person will be knowing how to use Primavera, how to use Windows Project, how to monitor, how to correctly infuse resources, how to manage time, how to remove flab. He will know. If the execution of work is defective or poor quality, a good executive is not going to accept it. The executive will not pass the work. It will have to be redone. How much of loss? It is better to co-opt the executive in the very beginning and do it correctly and get away. Failure to complete the work in time will enhance overheads, avoidable payments, more time, more resources. His own time is money. In all proportions, the contractor will be losing out. And imagine if because of all this the contract gets cancelled, and if the balance of portion has to be worked at risk and cost of the contractor, he loses name, he loses image, he loses peace of mind, and he will always feel that he has lost the family silver. Stress. So it can be adequately impressed upon the contractor and told to him in time that there is a need to do things right. Further, if he furnishes an undertaking and then withdraws the undertaking, he flips and flops, he shows flimsy actions, it is going to hurt him as well. It can be explained to him. If tiling has to be done, people talk about gang from Rajasthan. Gang from a particular place is fit for a particular work. If mud work has to be done, if art work has to be done, if solar work has to be done, if roof work has to be done, if plumbing work has to be done, if false ceiling work has to be done, if plastering work has to be done, if painting work has to be done, they all have separate teams in the market, gangs in the market. Inferior skill. If he employs people with inferior skill, he is going to suffer because he is going to pay damages. He might have to do things again. So, a sample work can always be inspected and then brought up and highlighted, named and shamed and told to the contractor, and he can be told in time to pull back, organize, commit better resources. It will be universal benefit. Subletting of work without obtaining permission of accepting officer will be so visible that the whole iceberg will be visible to an executive who is present and who is with his eyes open looking at the work passionately. If he procures material from unauthorized sources to save tax, duty, etc., how will he produce vouchers? Nothing wrong for the executive to occasionally send some voucher for forensic testing. Send some voucher to the original issuing authority to confirm whether it is his own voucher. Checks and balances are must to avoid defaults. Post-mortem doesn't help, gentlemen. We have to prepare before. Non-deployment or utilization of mobilization advance. He has taken it mobilization advance. It is accounted for. It is not some free fund. If he doesn't use it, he is going to suffer. So it has to be documented, brought out, made it as a discussion point, and you have to make him realize. Further, when we move ahead, there can be occasionally some unreasonable attitudes adopted by the contractor. Sometimes he will be advised by someone that there is a layer of DAC 1 and on top of there is a layer of DAC 2. In the contract there is one flimsy word somewhere, helps you the reason. So let us prepare a claim saying that you have not deliberately said that it should be DAC 1 on top of DAC 2, DAC 2 on top of DAC 1. Instead, you have said that it should be dense asphaltic concrete 1 and dense asphaltic concrete 2 on top. You have missed a few words. So to me it appears that dense asphaltic concrete 1 is not emerging anywhere. What do I do? Give me a star rate. You can always counter it. You can bring out, reason it out. Tell him, okay, if I have mentioned only dense asphaltic concrete 2, dense asphaltic concrete 1 is an inferior layer. So okay, go ahead, lay 2 superior layers. We will accept. He will be at loss. Frivolous claims, people advise. Nowadays, there are a few contractors. The moment he gets a work, he starts hiring a person to find flaws in the contract. He pays him a percentage because he feels that that flaw is going to help him. All the more reason for us to be very, very strong in framing the contract. And we should have institutional legacy. One mistake done in one contract shouldn't be done in the wording of the next contract. And even there is a mistake in the contract, then we should come to a reasonability approach when we should tell the contractor, see, this is the interpretation. 99%. By correct legacy, by correct arguments, by correctly putting it across, we'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Deliberate avoidance in submission of purchase voucher and test certificate. He will delay it, endlessly delay it. He might think that the executive might get posted out. So I might be able to find a window. He should be called, checked, told, recorded, highlighted that no, my friend, you are going nowhere with this. So that the very beginning, if he is checked, till the end he will be correct in his procedures. If a loose rope is given in the end, it will be very difficult to pull it up in the end. Not attending to rectification of defects. It should be highlighted. Penalties should be imposed. And superior authority will have to be informed. Constant notices will have to be issued. Cogent actions will have to be taken. If he puts up a non-cooperative attitude at the time of finalization, the final bill, wherein it is he who has to put up the final bill, at the time, before reaching that stage, pre-final, pre-final, there must be some interaction with the contractor to course guide him towards a logical conclusion. Else he must be shown examples of people who have adopted a similar attitude and not having succeeded. Occasionally, it so happens, when you say Himavat Uttare Parsve, that Himalayas to the north, no need. Just say Himalaya. No. It's better to qualify, better to explain. So a person can be told in an illustrative manner, see what has happened here, see what has happened there. So he'll become a little more cautious. Further, you have to see that if at all you have to manage a contract, you have to be alert, you have to be constantly evolving, you have to monitor it with a close vision, and you have to attend to it like your very life, because you are responsible for taking it to the logical conclusion. However, if irreparably the contract is going south, then learned people say that there are only 3 options: mediation, arbitration, or litigation. Thank you.